It's tax time, which means there are a million ideas that people have of things that might be claimable. What I'm going to do today is go through 20 common items that people think might be claimable. I'm going to tell you whether they are claimable, and if they are, what type of criteria you need to meet to make them claimable to you. As always, seek your own advice from a professional or the ATO to find out whether these deductions are actually claimable for your personal situation. Let's start with number one, motor vehicle fuel. Now, this is claimable if you're using the logbook method. If you're using the cents per kilometre method, it won't be claimable because the cents per kilometre method encompasses everything, including fuel. But if you're using the logbook method, obviously, if you have a valid logbook and you're using your vehicle for work-related purposes, then the fuel would be claimable to the percent that your logbook shows is work-related. Item number two is food when travelling. Now, yes, this is claimable if you are travelling for work-related purposes and it is not entertainment. So be very careful here. You want to obviously tick off that it is a work-related trip. Now, if there's a private portion to the trip, you'll need to apportion there. And you want to make sure that your food and your drinks fall under food and drink and not entertainment. Go read the ATO rules on this because it is quite complex. The third one is work shoes. And no, these are typically not claimable unless they're protective clothing. So a lot of people think that their standard work shoes that they wear to work in their office job are claimable. They're not going to be unless they're occupation specific or that they fall under protective clothing or they're some type of compulsory thing, but it's very rare that they'll be claimable. So you really want to research this one because this is a common one people get wrong. Item number four is gym memberships, and no, these are normally not claimable. They are only claimable in really rare situations like maybe you're a professional sports person, but in most cases a gym membership will not be claimable. Even if you work in an industry where you need to maintain a decent level of fitness, the ATO are very strict on the criteria, so again, have a look at this one. Sun protection and sunglasses in particular, yes, these can be claimable if you are working outdoors. So if you think of you've got a job where you're outside all the time and you're required to wear sunglasses, then you'll likely be able to claim these. Now, you obviously need to apportion if there's a private usage portion if you're using them privately as well. Item number six is makeup, and this one is a no, unless you are something like a stage performer. Again, this is another area the ATO are very strict on and where the answer is nearly always no. Even if you have to present yourself nicely, you work in an office and your boss says you need to present yourself nicely, this still won't be claimable. The ATO are very strict, so make sure you read the very strict definition they have of when this would be claimable. Item number seven is logoed uniform, and yes, that one is normally going to be claimable. Look at me, I've got a logoed jumper on here, so yes, that would be claimable, but you need to, again, check the rules on clothing because it is very strict on what is claimable and what's not, and make sure you really understand this because it's an area the ATO will be focusing on. Item number eight is a home office chair, and yes, if you are working from home, you're going to be able to claim the furniture you're using. Now, again, like I've said with a lot of these other items, you need to understand, is there a private portion to this? And if the chair is over $300, you need to understand how the depreciation works on these assets because you might not be able to just write it off all in once. So that's something to keep in mind if you're buying larger home office furniture or equipment when you're doing your work from home. You need to understand how that gets taxed. Item number nine is coffee, and typically for most people this is going to be a no. Your everyday food and drink, even if you're consuming it while at work as an employee, is not normally going to be tax deductible. Now this could be a little bit different if you're traveling, as we talked about with travel, food and drink earlier. But in general, if you buy a coffee to have at the office, no, you're not going to be able to claim this in most cases. Item number 10, dog expenses. No, pets are private in nature. It's very, very unlikely you're going to be able to claim anything for dogs or animals. There might be a few exceptions if you're running a business and you've got security dogs. But again, that is a very niche category where you need to understand the actual rules regarding that if you want to deduct it. But for an employee, it's going to be very, very unlikely you'd be able to claim anything to do with your pets. Now, before I go into items 11 to 20, I deal with this stuff every single day as a part of my business, Rooshock Accounting. So if you are looking for a taxation to help you with your tax return, you can reach out to us. All the links are in the description of the video. You can head over to our website. We have fixed price fees, and we'd love to help you get your tax return done. Now let's jump back into the video. Number 11 is commuting to work, and no, you can't claim for the travel between home and work unless you're in a unique situation where you may be carrying bulky tools or something like that. In general though, home to work is private. Anything from work to other workplaces is going to be claimable, and that's where we come back to our motor vehicle expenses of our logbook or our cents per kilometre methods. Item number 12 is tools, and yes, you will be able to claim tools if you're using them for work-related purposes. So you need to be able to tick off that you're using it for work purposes. Again, you need to apportion if there is a private use portion to this, and you need to make sure you're keeping the receipts and understanding how it works if these tools are over $300, how they will be depreciated. Item number 13 is lunches. And again, a bit like the coffees, no, if you're just having lunch at work or at a work site, this likely isn't going to be claimable. Now, this does change if you're staying overnight for work. Then all of a sudden, now we're talking about travel expenses, and there's different rules for food when it comes to travel expenses versus your everyday food that you have at your job. Item number 14 is your phone bill. And yes, you'll be able to claim a portion of this if you're using it for work-related purposes. Again, you need to come up with what percentage is work-related and obviously keep track of the cost and then claim that on your tax return. Now, be very careful if you're using the fixed rate method for home office expenses because you can't double up and do that plus phone expenses. Number 15 is haircuts. No, these are deemed as personal in nature, a bit like the makeup. They're deemed as personal grooming, which is private and therefore not deductible. Even if you have to be nicely groomed for your job, this isn't deductible. Item number 16 is protective boots. So yes, these are different to the regular footwear we talked about earlier because now they've got a protective nature. So if you're required protective footwear at your job, then you're going to be able to deduct these. Now, this doesn't mean if you work in an office, you can buy steel cut boots and say I use them for work because again, you're not using them, so therefore they're private nature. But if you're working a trade job and you need steel cut boots and you're wearing them on site every day, they're going to be deductible. Item number 17 is charity donations. And yes, these are deductible if they are to a deductible gift recipient. So they need to have DGR status, so you can search that up. Most charities will obviously advertise if they do. Then you can claim the donation. However, you still need to make sure you keep the receipts to be able to claim these donations. Number 18 is Christmas gifts. Now, these are likely going to be, again, private in nature, so you're not going to be able to claim these. Even if these are to work colleagues, these are going to be deemed as private in nature. It'll be very rare. Maybe if you're the owner of the business, the rules might be a little bit different there. But again, there's a lot of things you need to be aware of. But in general, Christmas gifts, non-deductible. Number 19 is your Spotify subscription. So if you have a Spotify subscription, it is likely going to be, again, private in nature. There might be some rare exceptions to this, but in general, if you're just listening to music at the office or at your desk, it's going to be private and therefore non-deductible. And number 20 is tax agent fees. If you pay a tax agent like myself, you'll be able to claim that in your next year's tax return. Make sure you remember this, especially if you're switching agents or if you went to an agent and then you're doing your own return. Make sure to add this in because it's something you've expensed and you're allowed to claim it, and therefore you want to include it in your return. If you haven't yet done your return yet, you shouldn't. Well, you shouldn't until you watch my upcoming How to Maximize Your Tax Return video. It's my favorite one to make every single year. It's packed full of values to help you get more out of your tax return. I hope to see you over there.